Get Smart went on to become one of the most loved TV series of all time.
Max, we made it. Now all we have to do is unchain the Prime Minister and get him out of here.
Right. There is an episode of Get Smart that almost nobody got to see, and more other cuts that was left omitted, never seen by fans. It was made back in 1965, but was never shown on TV. The clip was different from the others and was too hilarious that might have become trouble. The show usually made people laugh with funny spy stories, but this one went too far. Bosses at the TV station decided to stop it before anyone could watch. People still wonder what was so special about it. Let's take a look at this secret and forgotten part of Get Smart. Oops, not the bunny slippers. Of all the classic TV shows from the 60s, Get Smart holds a special place in the world of comedy. It was clever, ridiculous, and full of slapstick charm that made Maxwell Smart one of the most lovable yet clueless secret agents to ever hit the screen. But believe it or not, even a show as silly and good-natured as Get Smart was not immune to the occasional controversy. Now, I am not talking about something huge or career-ending. No, we are diving into something so trivial it almost sounds made up. There was an episode, or more specifically, a scene, that got cut for being too much. And when you hear what it was, you might just roll your eyes and wonder what the big deal was in the first place. So, here is what happened. In one particular episode during the show's second season, there was a short scene where Max walks into control headquarters wearing a ridiculous pair of bunny slippers. Yes, bunny slippers. That was it. He strolls in all serious while everyone around him stares and tries not to laugh. The joke was classic Maxwell Smart. Total seriousness in the most absurd situation. The slippers were never explained, never referenced again. And that was the beauty of it. It was pure visual comedy. The scene was shot and even made it into the original cut of the episode, but just before airing, someone at the network apparently decided it was too silly and pulled the scene out. That's right, on a show known for exploding telephones and cone of silence gags, the bunny slippers were deemed a step too far. Now let's take a second to really think about that. Bunny slippers were too much for a show that once featured an invisible dog and a villain named the Crawl. This was the same show where secret agents would hide in vending machines, and Max would deliver catchphrases like, "Would you believe?" while holding up a shoe phone. Yet for some reason, a pair of fluffy slippers crossed a line. And here is where it gets a little ridiculous. Fans never got an explanation, no statement, no behind-the-scenes DVD commentary, nothing. The scene was just quietly removed and forgotten about. But hardcore fans? Oh, they noticed. There were rumors for years. People remembered seeing it in original promotional stills. A few even swore they saw the slippers in an early broadcast or rehearsal footage. It became a kind of goofy TV urban legend, the bunny slippers that were too hot for television. The controversy, if you can even call it that, sparked small debates among fans. Was the cut justified? Did the scene ruin the comedic rhythm? Or was the network just being too uptight about a harmless joke? Some argued that the joke broke the world of the show, that Max Smart was always silly but never stupid. Others thought the idea of him walking in wearing bunny slippers perfectly captured the absurdity of the character and the entire show. Honestly, it is a stretch to say the scene would have changed the course of television history. But still, it represents something kind of frustrating and funny about TV censorship at the time. This was the 60s, a time when comedy shows were still wrestling with what was too much and what was considered respectable television. So the slippers got cut, and we all lost out on what could have been one of the most ridiculous sight gags in the show's history. The infamous bunny slipper cut from Get Smart is a perfect example of how even the smallest decisions in entertainment can spark the biggest reactions. It may have been a throwaway joke, a blink, and you miss it moment, but it became a tiny symbol of creative restriction. It was harmless, it was hilarious, and yet someone said no. Maybe that's what makes it so frustrating for longtime fans. Not because the joke would have made or broken the episode, but because Get Smart was built on the unexpected and the absurd. Cutting a gag for being too absurd feels like missing the entire point. So here we are all these years later, still talking about bunny slippers. And maybe that is the real joke after all. It did not stop there. More clips were left out that could have been as funny and notable like the famous favorites. More gags that didn't make it. That was not the only moment. That ended up on the cutting room floor. Another talked about cut involved a scene where Max accidentally spills hot coffee on the chief. It was a physical gag that ended with the chief silently screaming in pain while trying to maintain his composure in front of a visiting foreign dignitary. The audience during the taping reportedly burst into laughter so hard it threw off the next few lines. The reason this scene was cut? Apparently, it made the chief look too weak and less authoritative. The network thought it might undermine the tone of Control's leadership and decided to trim it. Never mind the fact that the chief regularly got locked in closets, blown up by gadgets, and once disguised himself as a cocktail waitress. The coffee scene was just one moment too far, they said. Then there was the infamous rubber chicken incident. Yes, there was once a scripted scene where Max was supposed to use a rubber chicken as a diversionary weapon during a mission. The chicken was rigged to squawk and explode into confetti when thrown, serving as a distraction while 99 snuck into a chaos office. The scene played beautifully in rehearsals, and even Don Adams reportedly loved it. But the studio executives thought it was too slapstick and would make the show seem childish. Too slapstick? On Get Smart? That is like saying a banana is too yellow. The scene was scrapped and replaced with a more serious gadget that no one even remembers. Fans who heard about the chicken in behind-the-scenes stories have been bitter about it ever since. And then there is the most curious cut of all, a full scene where Max and 99 accidentally get stuck in a malfunctioning cone of silence and start sharing personal confessions. It was supposed to be a rare moment of emotional honesty between them. In fact, it hinted at deeper feelings and gave the characters a bit more dimension. But it was pulled because producers thought it made the episode feel too romantic for a spy comedy. The weird part is, fans always wanted more emotional moments between Max and 99. Their chemistry was part of the show's charm. The Cone of Silence confessional could have become a fan favorite. Instead, it was buried and left out of the episode entirely. These little cuts, the slippers, the coffee spill, the chicken, the confessions, might seem trivial in the grand scheme of television history. But in a show like Get Smart, where the balance of absurdity and cleverness was everything, these lost moments actually mattered. They showed how even a wildly silly comedy was still being policed for tone and image. It's fair to say, until now, most sitcoms and comedy shows remain scripted and not 100% spontaneous. The lost episodes and clips of the show remain a curious piece of TV history. Though it never aired, it reminds us how even the funniest shows have limits. Who knows? Maybe one day it will finally see the light of day. Until then, it stays part of Get Smart's secret files. Get Smart, get laughs. The American television series Get Smart premiered in 1965 during a golden era of television and quickly established itself as one of the most iconic and innovative comedy programs of its time. Created by Mel Brooks and Buck Henry, The show was developed as a satirical response to the growing popularity of spy fiction, which had exploded in the wake of the James Bond film series. The timing of Get Smart was perfect, as Cold War tensions were high, and espionage was a topic of both fascination and fear for the American public. By infusing comedy into this often serious genre, the creators offered viewers a refreshing and humorous take on global espionage and covert intelligence operations. The series was originally developed for ABC, but was picked up by NBC after the former declined to proceed with it. The show centered around Maxwell Smart, a bumbling yet oddly effective secret agent known as Agent 86, portrayed by Don Adams, who brought an unforgettable blend of deadpan humor and physical comedy to the role. Smart worked for a fictional American counterintelligence agency called Control, which was perpetually engaged in battle with its international nemesis, Chaos, a shadowy organization bent on world domination. Smart was often aided by Agent 99, played by Barbara Feldon, who was not only competent and intelligent, but also represented a departure from the typical female roles in spy dramas of the time. The character of 99 was notable for her wit, skill, and consistent ability to save Smart from himself, as he frequently stumbled into danger through overconfidence or sheer ineptitude. The success of Get Smart can be attributed to several key factors. First and foremost, the writing was exceptionally sharp, blending wordplay, slapstick, absurdist humor, and political satire, in a way that was both accessible and clever. The catchphrases from the series, such as "Would you believe and missed it by that much?" became part of the popular lexicon and further cemented the show in the cultural memory. The unique gadgets featured on the show, including the famous shoe phone, also became iconic symbols of the series, reflecting both the technological curiosity of the 60s and the playful imagination of the show's creators. These devices were often exaggerated versions of real spy gear, which helped the show toe the line between parody and homage. The casting also played a crucial role in the show's enduring appeal. Don Adams was the heart of the series, and his precise delivery, impeccable timing, and unmistakable voice made Maxwell Smart a one-of-a-kind character. Barbara Feldon's performance was equally essential, providing balance to Adams's chaotic energy and portraying a rare example at the time of a capable and respected woman in a lead television role. Edward Platt, as the Chief of Control, offered a steady counterpoint to Smart's antics with a dignified presence and dry humor that enriched the ensemble dynamic. The chemistry between these lead actors was palpable, and their performances helped build a strong and believable world, despite the show's often outlandish scenarios. Throughout its run, Get Smart received numerous accolades and strong critical acclaim. It won several Emmy Awards, including Outstanding Comedy Series and Best Actor in a Comedy Series for Don Adams multiple times. The show also enjoyed consistently high ratings during its initial seasons, helping to expand its reach beyond television into merchandise, comic books, and eventually feature films. Its blend of clever writing, visual gags, and memorable characters influenced countless subsequent comedy programs and helped solidify the spy spoof as a distinct comedic subgenre. However, like many long-running television series, Get Smart eventually faced challenges that led to its decline and conclusion. The show ran for 5 seasons from 1965 to 1970, with the first 4 airing on NBC and the final season broadcast by CBS. While the early seasons maintained high creative standards, the later episodes struggled to sustain the same level of originality and viewer engagement. One factor was the growing competition from newer shows and changing audience tastes, which began to favor more socially conscious programming over lighthearted escapism. Additionally, the format of the show began to feel formulaic to some viewers, and even the talented cast and writers found it difficult to consistently generate fresh ideas within the rigid structure of the series. Another significant turning point occurred when the series attempted to evolve its central characters and storylines to maintain interest. The marriage of Agents 86 and 99 and the introduction of their twin children in later episodes were efforts to shift the narrative and inject new life into the show. But many fans and critics viewed these developments as a departure from the original tone and intent of the series. The decision by CBS to take over the final season also led to some production changes and budget constraints that affected the show's overall quality and consistency. Despite these challenges, the legacy of Get Smart remains strong. The series was revived multiple times in various forms, including a short-lived sequel series in 1995 and a major motion picture adaptation in 2008 starring Steve Carell and Anne Hathaway. The influence of Get Smart can still be seen in contemporary comedies and spy parodies, as it set a template for mixing satire and action with a strong comedic sensibility. It also helped pave the way for other television shows that blended genres and embraced self-aware humor. While it garnered significant praise and even several Emmy Awards, Get Smart was not immune to criticism, some of which has only become more apparent over time. Let's dig into some of them. A closer look. When Get Smart debuted, it made an immediate splash as a fresh and irreverent parody of the spy genre, particularly James Bond-style tropes. Created by comedic heavyweights Mel Brooks and Buck Henry, and led by Don Adams as the bumbling secret agent Maxwell Smart, the show became a staple of American television comedy. One of the most common complaints, even during the show's original run, was its reliance on formulaic humor and repetitive gags. Much of Get Smart's comedic foundation rested on catchphrases: "Would you believe?" slapstick, and predictable misunderstandings. While initially charming, some critics and viewers found that the humor wore thin over time. By the later seasons, the freshness of the parody had dulled, and the jokes felt recycled. The clever spy satire that had once been its strength often gave way to silliness that felt lazy or strained. In other words, the show sometimes coasted on its earlier success, leaning heavily on its most well-known bits instead of evolving. In a related vein, Get Smart struggled with inconsistent storytelling and character development. Maxwell Smart was, of course, designed to be a parody, a well-meaning but inept spy who always stumbled into success. But for some viewers, this lack of genuine growth or complexity became frustrating. Agent 99, played with intelligence and grace by Barbara Feldon, often seemed more competent than Max, and yet she was rarely given the same narrative focus or comedic weight. Critics pointed out that the show had a tendency to reduce its characters to caricatures. Funny? Yes, but flat. Over time, this made the series feel static rather than dynamic. Another issue that has been raised, especially in more modern re-evaluations, is the show's representation of gender and race. While Agent 99 was progressive for the time, being a smart, capable woman in a male-dominated spy world, she still played second fiddle to Max. She rarely got credit for her successes, and her main long-term story arc involved her eventual marriage to Max and life as a mother, sidelining her role as a spy. Meanwhile, the series was overwhelmingly white, with very few characters of color. And when other ethnicities did appear, it was often in stereotyped or token roles. These shortcomings reflect the era in which the show was made, but they still register as glaring flaws when viewed through a contemporary lens. The show's tone and pacing also received occasional critique. The blend of slapstick, satire, and spy action didn't always mesh smoothly. Some episodes felt uneven, packed with jokes that didn't land, or padded with overly long chase scenes or convoluted gadget setups. This unevenness created a disconnect between the show's clever concept and its actual execution. For those who preferred more tightly written comedies like The Dick Van Dyke Show or the social commentary of All in the Family later on, Get Smart could come across as lightweight or even juvenile. Lastly, there's a broader criticism of Get Smart that centers on its limited emotional depth. While many sitcoms of the era weren't particularly introspective, the best among them at least offered moments of humanity or vulnerability. Get Smart, on the other hand, stayed firmly in the realm of farce. Some viewers found this emotionally hollow. After all, how long can you watch a character fumble through danger without ever seriously changing or reflecting on anything? The lack of stakes made it feel, at times, like a cartoon, entertaining but not exactly resonant. In the end, Get Smart remains a classic for its time, and its influence on the comedy and spy parody genres can't be denied. But like any piece of popular culture, it wasn't perfect. Its heavy reliance on formula, limited character arcs, cultural blind spots, and occasionally uneven execution all left room for critique. These flaws don't necessarily negate the show's value, but they do complicate the nostalgic glow that often surrounds it. For viewers revisiting it today, or discovering it for the first time, these criticisms serve as important context, helping to frame Get Smart as a product of both brilliance and limitation because of the casts and recurring guests. Let's talk about who they were back then, what roles they played, and where life took them after the spotlight dimmed. Casts then and now. With clever writing, hilarious gags, and unforgettable characters, it became a television classic. But what really made the show shine was its cast. These actors brought the world of control and chaos to life with their charm and perfect comedic timing. At the center of the chaos was Don Adams, who played Maxwell Smart, also known as Agent 86. He was the heart and soul of the show, with his deadpan delivery and hilarious catchphrases like "Missed it by that much" and "Would you believe?" Smart was a bumbling secret agent who always somehow managed to get the job done, usually by accident. Don Adams nailed the role so perfectly that it became his legacy. He actually won 3 Emmy Awards for it. After Get Smart, he kept the character alive in a few movies and even voiced Inspector Gadget, another iconic, clumsy detective. Don passed away in 2005, but he remains a television legend thanks to this role. Then we have Barbara Feldon, who played Agent 99, Maxwell Smart's partner and eventual wife. She was smart, elegant, competent, and often saved Max from his own mistakes. What made her stand out in the 60s was that she was one of the few strong and capable female leads on TV. She brought class and brains to the show without losing her comedic edge. Barbara continued acting after Get Smart, popping up in movies and television, but she eventually shifted away from the spotlight. In later years, she focused more on writing and personal work. She published a book called Living Alone and Loving It, and she's still remembered fondly by fans of the show. The role of the long-suffering chief, head of control, was played by Edward Platt. He was always trying to keep order as Max created chaos around him. His stern voice and serious demeanor were the perfect contrast to the silliness of Max and the rest. Edward Platt gave the chief a sense of dignity, even as he put up with the most ridiculous situations. He had a solid acting career before Get Smart, but this role became his most memorable. Sadly, he passed away in 1974, just a few years after the original show ended. Bernie Kopell played Siegfried, the hilariously evil chaos agent with a heavy accent and a knack for messing up his own plans. Siegfried became one of the most loved villains in television comedy. Bernie had a blast with the role, and he actually returned for the reunion movies. After Get Smart, he kept a strong TV presence, most notably as Dr. Bricker on The Love Boat. He also made guest appearances on shows like Monk, Scrubs, and Charmed. As of today, he is still alive and kicking, and fans continue to adore his work. Then there was Dick Gautier, who played Himi the robot. Jaime was a humanoid robot who joined Control and quickly became a fan favorite because of his stiff posture, literal-minded responses, and surprising emotional moments. Gautier brought a lot of charm and warmth to a character that could have been cold and mechanical. After Get Smart, he went on to appear in various films and TV shows and even voiced characters in animated series. He passed away in 2017, but people still remember Jaime with a smile. Robert Carvelis, who was actually Don Adams' cousin in real life, played Larrabee, one of the most clueless Control agents. Larrabee was sweet and loyal, but hilariously dumb. His scenes were always a treat and gave the show even more comedic flavor. Carvelis did not act much outside of Get Smart, and after the show ended, he stepped away from the entertainment industry. He passed away in 1991. There were also smaller but memorable roles like Lynn Peters, who appeared as a guest star, and Ellen Weston, who added some brains and beauty in her brief appearances. These actors played chaos agents or control scientists and added depth and flair to individual episodes. While they didn't stick around for the entire series, they helped shape the quirky world that Get Smart was known for. In the years since the original show aired, there have been spin-offs, reunion movies, and even a modern-day reboot movie in 2008. But nothing quite compares to the magic that the original cast brought to our screens. They had a special chemistry that made every joke land and every mission memorable. Some have passed on. Some are enjoying quiet retirements, but their work on Get Smart has stood the test of time. In the end, Get Smart was more than just a goofy spy comedy. It was a showcase of talented actors who brought warmth, wit, and ridiculous fun into our lives. The cast of 1965 gave us a gem of a show. And even now, watching those old episodes feels like reconnecting with old friends. They made us laugh then, and they still do now, shoe phone and all. Adams in parallel roles. Before Get Smart, Don Adams had already begun crafting his signature comedic style. In the early 60s, he played the clueless hotel detective Byron Glick on The Bill Dana Show, 1963 to 1965. Many of his iconic mannerisms, catchphrases like "Would you believe?" and comedic beats from that role would later be adapted for his performance as Maxwell Smart. In 1971, Adams headlined another sitcom, The Partners, where he portrayed Sergeant Lenny Crooks, an inept police detective who echoed his Maxwell Smart persona. Rupert Cross played his slightly more competent partner, Detective George Robinson, while John Doucette filled the role of their exasperated superior, Captain Andrews. The show also featured Get Smart's Robert Carvelis as Freddie Butler, a man prone to falsely confessing to crimes. Despite its familiar comedic formula, the series only lasted half a season. Adams kept his Get Smart character alive in promotional appearances throughout the years. When Milwaukee's WCGV-TV launched in 1980, Adams recorded station promos as Agent 86, complete with shoe phone, to advertise reruns of the show. He also made several guest appearances on The Love Boat. In one humorous episode, even after being convinced he'd been shot, Adams's character avoids seeing the ship's doctor, played by Bernie Kopell, who had portrayed the villain Siegfried in Get Smart. In the early 80s, Adams reprised Maxwell Smart for a series of quirky local TV ads for New York electronics retailer Save Mart, using the slogan, "Get Smart, Get Save Mart Smart." He later brought the same energy to a string of White Castle commercials in 1992, once again using his famous "Would you believe?" line. Adams's distinctive voice found a new generation of fans when he voiced the titular character in the animated series Inspector Gadget during the 80s. The character, a clumsy but well-meaning cyborg detective, bore more than a passing resemblance to Maxwell Smart. This series led to a 1999 live-action film starring Matthew Broderick, with Adams making a cameo appearance. A spin-off cartoon, Gadget Boy and Heather, followed, although neither project was directly tied to Get Smart. In the mid-80s, Adams revived Maxwell Smart once again for a series of ads for Empire of America, Federal Savings Bank in Buffalo, New York. Promoting their telephone banking service, SmartLine, the commercials featured Adams in classic spy gear, complete with trench coat and shoe phone. The ads, produced by Sherwin Greenberg Productions, were shot on a foggy alley-style set, and even included a red Alpine look-alike, reminiscent of Max's original car from the show. Internationally, Adams appeared in a late 80s series of TV commercials for Toyota New Zealand, promoting the 1990 Toyota Starlet as Maxwell Smart. Due to his strong aversion to flying, production brought the New Zealand car to the US to film the ads. He also starred in Canadian commercials in the late 90s for a long-distance dial-around service. In the 1987 film Back to the Beach, Adams played a harbor master who used several of Maxwell Smart's trademark phrases, including a scene where Frankie Avalon's character briefly mimicked Siegfried's voice. The Maxwell Smart persona popped up again in a 1989 Kmart commercial, where Adams, speaking into his shoe phone, informed the chief about the store's electronics. When a perfect double of himself appeared, Smart quipped, "Don't tell me you're a double agent," a direct nod to a classic running joke from Get Smart. Adams also participated in nostalgic McDonald's ads that featured stars from beloved TV shows, including Barbara Billingsley, Leave It to Beaver, Buddy Ebsen, The Beverly Hillbillies, Bob Denver, Gilligan's Island, and Al Lewis, The Munsters. He later starred in a Canadian sitcom called Check It Out, where he played a supermarket manager. Many of his Get Smart catchphrases, like "I told you not to tell me that," and the old insert phrase trick, were humorously repurposed in the retail setting, allowing Adams to playfully revisit the comedic style that had made him a household name. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like and subscribe for more content.